Yes, sir. So I think all join. We can continue now.
Okay, guys, welcome again. Welcome to Network Kings, and my name is Sukesh. We will be doing F5 LTM for this particular module, but what we also run is, I'm sure you guys know, this is, the entire course. It is a combination of F5 checkpoint plus Palo Alto. So you include load balancer in your profile and two of the leading firewall vendors, and you're good enough. Not at par, but good enough to get a job, get a decent job in networking or network security for that matter. Of course, as everything moving on to cloud, here adding cloud skill would be very important for all of you all. If you do not have that skill already, right? Any cloud for that matter, be it AWS, Azure, or GCP, or if anybody is working on no, Oracle or IBM specific or VMware specific, any vendor specific cloud infrastructure. So adding those skill set would be a plus. Right, talking about F5 for now, we will be covering F5 LTM. That's the main module of F5, right? The local traffic manager, or in short, load balancer or F5 LTM. This is nothing but it is just a blade onto the F5 big IP device. A lot of people get confused with what is the name of the vendor and what is the name of the device. Very basic things, but people often get it wrong, right? F5 is the vendor, right? It is the name of the company like Cisco, right? Or Checkpoint or Palo Alto. Their device, what you're studying or going to study, is big IP. So the name of the product is big IP, right? Of course, it will have like hardware, software, everything. But if I talk about the software, it is controlled by, it can do a lot of things apart from being a load balancer, a local traffic load balancer, right? It could also act as a WAF, right? It could also act as a security escalator. Sorry, not accelerator, escalator, accelerator, I meant. And global traffic manager, right? Or GTM or DNS in short. That's their new name of the product, although it is name of the protocol, but yes, they have named it DNS now. Previously, they used to call it GTM. Right, so what we will be studying is LTM, right? Before we jump into this, let me talk about what actually all those, the architecture of the device, hardware-wise and software-wise. So the big IP, as I mentioned, it can act as multiple devices all in one. Yeah, it could do network firewall. It could do application acceleration, right? Access control, application security, right? The WAF part that I was selling, the DNS, right? Uh, what it will do is, they used to call it GTM before. What this did is, like, if I give you an example, you sitting in India, open up google.com, it goes to Google India server, right? Someone else sitting in US, open up Google, it goes to the Google US, right? So all of this is controlled by the global traffic managers. So that's one feature that this device has, big IP. Then what we are interested in is LTM. Now, you may think that why not all and why just LTM, right? Because see, LTM is the basic functionality of this device. Everything else, it sits on top of LTM. I mean, when you offload, basically, the job of a load balancer. Why do we need a load balancer, right? It is because you want to offload the servers and put all the load onto the load balancer. Because see, you do not have just one server holding these multiple application or these huge applications. For example, Google, right? Do you think Google is sitting on just one huge server? No, it is a group of servers handling different tasks, right? Similar tasks, backup of each other. There are a lot of servers. So how do they get traffic? They get traffic from the local traffic manager or the load balancer, right? Not necessarily F5. I'm not saying they have F5, but they might have something else. But I'm sure F5 is one of the leading vendors, so the chances are very high that they would have F5. Who knows? Anyway, the point is, here in this slide we have to understand two things. Like in any electronic device, let's just forget about load balancer for now. If I talk about our computer, right? What will it have? It will have the hardware and the software that allow us to communicate with the hardware, right? You have, and the operating system, right? And you, as a user, you interact with the operating system, and operating system would interact with the hardware and get your job done. Similarly, we have two different systems here. You have operating system, and before loading operating system, you have BIOS, right? So this thing here, big IP administration, it is more like BIOS. Not exactly, don't try to map it uh, one-to-one, but just to give you an idea. No? So the big IP administration has, it's like it is the control plane of the device. Okay, basically, any changes that you want to make to the device, monitoring purpose or troubleshooting purpose, or you want to do some new implementations, this is how you will do through big IP administration. Yes, there are different tools and different ways that you can interact with the device through the APIs, right? IAPs, and through the GUI, the web UI, right? The TM shell or TMSH, it is the F5 CLI, I would say, and then the CLI. Now, what is the difference here? This is the Linux CLI, right, on which the device is based. So all your Linux commands that you are aware of would run in this CLI. From this, you enter the command tmsh and you enter into the F5 CLI, right? So they would have um, a typical syntax commands like any other device, right? Cisco or Palo Alto, like the device vendor CLI. This is more like Linux CLI. Right, so these are the things that we would be primarily working with, not through the APIs, right? And then you have these this TMOS system. TMOS system is basically your data plane, right? Which will get things done for you, which will handle all your traffic, which will work on the configurations, right? You configure a device in a certain way, then the device has to obey that configuration, right? So that job is of TMOS system, right? Under TMOS, you will have all these features as software blades, right? Or you can control them through licenses. For example, you get a you get a license from F5, you will have to mention that what all features that you want and pay accordingly. What we will use is we will use a trial license where you can activate everything. But anyway, we will be focusing on LTM, but I will do tell you that how can we enable it for them, right? It's just the check boxes that you have to do at the time of setting up the system for the first time. Right, so that's about the device. It has other things as hardware capabilities. We will talk about these as the course progresses, right? I don't want to be too technical on the very first slide. So this was an overview of the big IP. It has two things, right? One is the big IP administration, responsible for all the control plane things, and the TMOS, responsible for the traffic management. Right, moving further. I actually forget this. This should have been the very first slide. I always mess it up. Anyway, so we were also talking about the load balancer. What exactly um, do they do as part of the network, right? Where exactly do they sit in the network, right? What will be their positioning? How would you expect a load balancer to function, right? Under which use cases you would recommend setting up a load balancer. So all that we're going to cover. So here, like I was giving you example of Google, right? This is not how it is set up, right? What we uh, what we as users see is you go to google.com, right? And you get the application served, you get the web page served on the web browser. Now, this is not going to hit directly to the Google servers, right? What will be is there will be a, let me go to the next one, you'll understand better. All the traffic will be going to a LTM. Now, on this client, let's say you do NS lookup, okay? You do NS lookup, google.com, you'd get some IP addresses. Those IP addresses are not of the servers, right? Those IP addresses are sitting on some load balancer, right? So the domain name itself is on F5. Now, will F5 be able to serve those queries? Is it Google? No. What F5 will do is it will forward those queries or those requests that the clients would make, right? Somebody wants to check live feed, live update. Somebody wants to just browse things, right? Ask Google things. So those queries, they will hit the F5 first, right? And then F5 will be forwarding it to the available application servers. Now, the catchword here is available. F5 is doing two things, not just F5 actually, okay? Whatever we are discussing here, although the course is F5 specific, but the concept that I'm telling you, try to understand that as a concept, not as a vendor specific behavior, right? This behavior is true for any load balancer, not just F5. Okay. So what F5 or any other load balancer will do, it will do two things. One is it will monitor server status, which means the availability of the server. Some servers could be down because of the maintenance, right? Because of some OS patching or vulnerability patching. Some could be available, right? You cannot, being Google, you cannot afford to be not available, right? So you would plan that accordingly, and some of them will be available, catering the request as usual, and some will be doing the patchwork. So the load balancer will not be forwarding the traffic to this non-available server, right? So the very main thing that a load balancer has to do is monitor the server status, which means the health check of a particular server, and load balancing the traffic, right? Whichever server is available, you would want to load balance the traffic to that server. Okay. So any question until here? Anybody? No, I'm good.
If all the server is available, then they will do a load balancing, right?
Right. As you see here, let's say you have 4 servers here in the backend. One of them is not available, so the remaining 3 will get the request, and the pattern in which they will get the request will keep on changing. It is configurable, right? By default, it is in the round robin format. Right? We will talk about these load balancing algorithms. How do they function and what are the defaults? We will talk about it.
Okay, yeah. So regarding architecture, so TMOS is handling a data plane traffic and big IP is handling control plane traffic. Is my understanding is right or it is different?
See, TMOS is part of Big IP. Big IP is the name of the product, and
Okay.
it is like router, right? It's a product category. So just replace router with Big IP, like in terms, not in network. So Big IP is the product, and under which you have 2 systems. One is the Big IP administration, that is your control plane, and the second is the data plane, which they call it TMOS.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
All right. So somebody is trying to speak, it seems. Hello.
I am Vivek.
Hello, Vivek. We can barely hear you. Vivek, we still can't hear you. You can put your question in the chat. Okay, Vivek, you have. Okay, I have a question. Firewalls and load balancers. See, it is, they're 2 very different devices. Okay, firewalls and load balancers. The requirement is very different for both. I mean, firewalls are implemented at 2 stages. One could be at the perimeter of the network, right? And one could be at the application level, right? So these firewalls would mainly be working up to layer 4, right? Allowing only the desired ports open, right, into the network. And the application firewalls can work up to layer 7, looking into the packet and do content filtering, URL filtering, all those kind of things. So basically, if I were to generalize, what are firewalls doing? Firewalls are doing access control, right? What a load balancer is doing, it is taking the load away from the servers and doing the hard processing, right? And will load balance to multiple servers in the backend, which a firewall cannot do. right? This is the main task that we can run. Let's say this is for google.com images, right? So for images, they have, let's say 4 servers. So all 4 servers are running identical application, right? One of them is not available, so the remaining 3 will serve the application. So it is for load balancing. The firewalls, they won't do load balancing, they will do access control. Okay.
I have a small doubt. Why
Sure.
we need to configure DNS at firewall also separately and at load balance also separately?
See, because when your devices, one is if you don't want your devices to call home as in for the vendor updates, you can skip. Okay. But let's say in firewalls, there are features where you can enable the security policies, and those security policies can use names instead of IP addresses,
Okay.
right? But in the packet, in the TCP IP packet, you will still have IP addresses, right?
Yeah.
So the firewall must understand that where is this particular IP associated. When the firewall gets a packet and it checks it with the policy, in the policy there is name, in the packet there is IP. So the firewall must understand this correlation, right?
Yeah.
So that is why on all these devices you must have
A
DNS.
separate database for DNS. Okay. We
Yes.
have to manage.
Not a separate database, but just if you point it towards the
My point is,
resolver.
if we install a single DNS server, can we replace these lists from both the hardwares? If we have a separate DNS server in our network, it's a generic question, not related
You
to
will
this.
still have to point your devices to that DNS
To the
server.
server.
So the configuration is needed that who the DNS server is, right?
Okay. I'm just. Okay. Please continue.
No problem. Yeah.
Hi, Chokesh.
Hey, hello.
Yeah, my name is Abhishek, and I have one doubt. Suppose I have a network because I'm into ISP for last 7 years.
Mhm.
I'm into L2 network engineer, and now we have been given some projects where we have to deploy firewalls as well as some load balancer. So, I may be a wrong question or a silly question, but I just want to know, suppose I have a dedicated data center in UK where we have all the clients, and now the requirement is there we have to, for a dedicated client, we have to install a firewall and F5 load balancer as well. So what is the exact? Will the firewall be, the connection will be terminating on firewall or on the LTM? And generally what happen in terms of network, when we design any client network, what we do, we terminate the ISP connection on the firewall, and then we route the traffic to the router and then LAN, which is their internal switch. So I just want to know where the place of LTM in the network, is it before firewall or after firewall?
Right. So it's a good question. And mind guys, no questions are silly. Feel free to ask whatever comes to your mind. We
Yeah,
are here to learn. So that's
sure.
all right.
Yeah.
And just to answer your question, the placement of F5 or a load balancer would be after the firewall towards the DMZ, right, where your servers are kept,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Okay. Because generally when we see I have done, being a network engineer, sometimes we have to do a basic troubleshooting. So I feel like that, like what Google has done, Google has a content delivery routers at multiple location across the globe. So what is this CDN router? When you try to ping Google, instead of sending those packet to directly to the main server, the packet is redirected to the CDN network routers, content delivery routers. And what are these routers? These routers are located in a location where they have a local database. So maybe as somebody asked why we need to configure DNS, because DNS is there to reverse lookup or lookup with the IP and the name. So as the name suggests, content delivery network routers. So the F5 load balancer will also be able to help to redirect the packet to the correct location.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
In both cases, LTM and GTM, you can do redirection
Okay.
on
Okay.
basis of different parameters. Yes,
Okay. 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 Thank you, Sukesh. Thank you.
not a problem. Okay, guys. So moving further, let's understand how a load balancer would treat our connections or packets, right? So architecture-wise, this device, not just F5, again, all these concepts are true for all the load balancers, be it a generic load balancer on a Linux system or any vendor specific. That's how the load balancers would work, all of them. The way we configure them and the way we get things done from a load balancer, that might change with the vendor, but not the basics of how the TCP connections will be handled. Okay. So having said that, a load balancer, it is going to be a full proxy device. It acts as a full proxy device, which means for the clients, it acts as a server, right? And for the servers, it acts as a client. It would not um, simply forward the packets and forget about them. No, not like routers, right? So it is going to remember those connections, and it will look something like this. In the CLI or GUI or in the documentation of F5. Now this is a F5 specific term, but this is more like generic only, but in the documentation, they always refer by this terms. So that is client side connection and server side connection. In the CLI, you may see it like this: CS port or syntax like CS virtual server, things like that. So CS basically stands for client side. That is what I'm trying to tell you guys. So what happens here? See, by default, the device is going to deny everything. It is not an out of the box and hot pluggable. It does not come readily configured. Right? Some devices, for example, switches, they won't really mess up your configuration unless the STP or the version numbers go mismatching. Usually it is plug and play, right? The switches, but not with the big IP. By default, if you put it in line with the traffic, right, it will be blocking all the traffic. Yeah, you will have to configure it in a certain way to pass the traffic or to load balance your traffic. Anyway, let's just assume that we have done that. So the connections will look something like this. The client and the F5 will have one TCP connection, and the F5 and the servers will have a different TCP connection. Right? What it is capable of, it is capable of changing the application data. Of course, you will have to configure it to do that. It won't do it on its own. Again, it can do encryption and decryption. It can do compression, decompression. It can work with different HTTP versions of protocols. Right? Let's say your servers are running an old HTTP version while you still want to update your application for the users because the users have moved to HTTP2 or a higher version, let's say. So the F5 can behave that, yes, I understand HTTP2, but I can talk to the servers with HTTP1, right? So this makes your application backward compatible, right? Anybody running 1.1 will be able to use it. Also, the latest versions will also be able to access. Sounds good? So this is just a, what do you say, overview of what this device can do. It can do pretty much anything with your application that you expect. For example, you have to display that apology page that, oh, our application is not available, right? And nowadays, these dynamic websites, they find all creative ways to say that we are not available, right? Have you guys ever seen Amazon or Flipkart or any of these e-commerce websites going down? It is rare, but whenever it happens, they display this 404 message in a very creative way. So those
Never
creative
experienced that.
yeah. So what I'm coming to is those creative pages can come from a load balancer, right? Or what you can do is, let's say all of your servers go down, so you could, an ultimate backup can be configured with F5. So when every server of your pool for that application goes down, it could go to that one ultimate backup of the application and it could run the bare minimum services. For example, if I take e-commerce website, let's say if it is down due to the reason of some billing, all the billing servers have gone bad and it is not working as expected. So what they can do is they can stop selling the products for time being, right? Because their servers are not available, but they can still, run the cart or let users add their products so that they can buy them later, right? So all those necessary services can still run even if all the servers go down, right? So the use cases are endless, guys. It really depends, and there is no good or bad way to architect this device, right? This is the basic functionality, the client side connection and the server side connection. When you should modify the application data, when you should encrypt, when you should compress, it totally depends on your application. What application are you load balancing, right? And it is always the application team that dictates the behavior of the load balancer. Although they cannot manage this because this being a network device, it comes under the administration of networking team or the security team, right? Nowadays, it's all same, but definitely not the application team will be managing this. They will only be giving us, guidelines or requirements, rather. That's the correct word. They'll be giving us requirements, and we will have to configure the load balancer in as per their requirement. Right? So there is no correct or incorrect way to configure it. This is good for interviews, when they ask you if you should do this or that, and you're not sure about what is he asking, always say it depends on the application. Right? This answer will always be correct, or at least it will never be wrong, right? If not 100% correct, it'll help you. So all depends on the application behavior. To get it working, we will have to configure it in a certain way to get started, right? And that is the initial setup. Like, how would you set up your newly purchased phone, right? You will put in your details, the way you want your device to look and feel, right? The way you want it to work, what all apps you want to give access to, right? Whether you want to send the error messages to the vendor or no, right? All those selections that you make with the language selection, everything. we all have done this initial setup for our phones. So similar setup we have to do for the load balancer. For that, each one of you will require your own license. Okay. And that includes me also. So how do we get that is from the F5 website. All you have to do is Google F5 trial license. Go to f5.com/trials. And then somewhere down here, okay, they've changed the website slightly, which is good. This is what we are looking for, F5 Big IP Virtual Edition. Why virtual edition? This is a VM basically, right? It is not a hardware, so that we can run it on our labs, because our labs have VMs, so we will require a VM license. Click on get the free trial now, and these are the steps that you have to perform. So of course, not to mention, if you already have an account, click on login or click on register. I will click on login and see if they will still give me keys. There's a limit of number of keys you can download within a year. Did I not click on login? Just one quick minute, guys. Let me reset my password. And for some reason, F5 takes time for these things. I've been working with F5 devices since quite some time now, and this is the only problem that you'll face. If you have to reset, yeah, the reset email won't come, and when you're downloading the licenses, it won't be immediate. They can take up to 24 hours for giving you license.
And sir, regarding login credentials, if we going to register, then when we will get login credentials?
Luckily, that thing is immediate. Let me just create a new with my different address.
I'm trying to create, but I didn't receive any details.
Right, these things are a little slow here. Let me try with my work email.
Now I received, sir. Sorry, I received.
Okay, if you've created, could you please share your screen or give me the credentials? I could just show you how do you download. Because my credentials will take time. I still haven't received the reset link.
Sure. But you have to allow me. I can't see it.
Oh yes. Let me allow sharing. Yeah, it is allowed. I mean, yeah, I had to stop sharing. You can share now.
Yes. Yes. Yes, sir. Can you see?
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah.
Right. So after making an account, guys, you just simply log into it. We still see the login screen, Amit.
Oh, it's lacking, sir. Sorry about that. It is loading, sir. It is. Yeah. Yes. Yes, yes.
Right. Right. Yes. That's it. And if you scroll down a little bit.
There is to support. I have roads.
Yeah, go to go under downloads. Are you connected via mobile phone by any chance? Amit?
No. Yes, let me switch my network. In reality, sir, my internet connection is not good right now, so that's why. Okay.
No, this one's better after you selected FTTH. It has been better. I think you saved it. Why don't you just click on saved?
We already did that. But why it is asking again? Sir, why it is not working? This one is the right passwords which I have there.
No, it should work. Yeah, could you click on this drop down that is coming
This drop down.
on your name? Yes, this one. Click on it. There was some change. No.
This one is right one. This password is the right one. I already saved during login. Why it is not working? I don't know. I have to reset password. We can do later. Okay. Because it will take.
Okay, back to square one.
Comes up, there is some issue. Let me troubleshoot at my end. Then I will go.
Sure.
So, Sukesh, I was asking if we join this particular batch, then do we got some documents also, or
Yes,
what
I
is the
will be
journey
giving you. I
about the
will be giving
syllabus,
you lab
path,
guide.
certifications, which we will cover over here, all those stuffs.
Right, I'll talk about that. Let me just download this.
Now you can download, sir, because now I can log in.
Yeah, I was able to get an email to activate my account. So basically, it's a simple thing, guys. You have to log into the f5.com/trials and create an account and follow the website to download the Big IP Virtual Edition trial for 30 days.
And sir, are you going to help us to set up the lab in EVNG over virtual machines?
Yeah, sure, I can. Like in the recent batches, not too many people were keen to set up the lab on EVNG, but yes, if you guys want, we can have a session around that. This does not look familiar to mine. This looks like it is going to set it up on the cloud. I think I used my official address, so they gave me a different page. Seems. You can still get this, download the latest version. This is to download the image, or you can say the VM of Big IP. Say, for example, we're looking for the virtual edition. You can go via the latest. Right, and here we are looking for virtual edition. And these are the different formats in which the version is available. So we want any of this all file, okay, that has all. So the all basically stands for all the features, modules will be available to you. For EVE-ng, if you're downloading, we need to download this file, right? Look at the size, we're looking for the VM, not for the signature or the MD5 hash values. Look at that size. So we're looking for
QCOW.
this file. Yeah, qcow2.zip, or if you're setting it up on VMware Workstation as a virtual machine, this is what you will have to download. Right, so in our lab that is already available, so I don't have to download any of this. I was looking for images, sorry, the key, and that service seems to be down at this moment. Right. Oh, okay, we have the keys available.
And so should be the device configuration for PVNG? What device configuration should require? Is 8 GB RAM or 16 GB RAM?
The big IP itself will require, I believe, 4 GB.
Okay.
Right. And overall, if you're talking about the system specs, it must have at least 16 to run EVE-ng. Right. You can run it with 2 GB also, but then your devices which will be running inside EVE-ng, they won't boot, and or if at all they boot, it will be dead slow.
So for the virtual server, are you guys you will share the detail of that virtual server with us after we
Yes.
join the course?
Yes, you'll be getting the access to this. This lab
Racks.network I
portal.
already have because I'm part of F5 and right now I'm doing it. But the problem is whenever I'm trying to log in this, it shows that the site is not secure and many times it's not sure.
Not secure part is all right. That's okay because it is not running on HTTPS.
And when I log in, it shows multiple folders and files to me.
Yes, those are labs.
Yeah. So which should I consider? If you can bring it, then it will be okay.
Right, so you will see folders like this. These are all labs created by either me or by the admin teams, right? Students would not have access to create new labs. But yes, there are enough labs created already, right? You could use those labs. For example, if we look for F5, I don't have one here. एडमिन टीम को टाइट करना पड़ेगा थोड़ा, ऐसे कौन लैब बनाता है?
And even we can't search it by name from. If we want to search it, we have to search it manually.
Yeah, that's okay. You can do Control F5 and look for what you're looking for, so you can search. Right. This looks like my lab. Okay, awesome. Let me just wipe this device. so that it gets set to default.
So Sukesh, mainly you are looking into F5, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I wanted to check. So in this combo course, you will be teaching the F5, right?
Yeah, that's, yes, it's been almost an hour since we are doing that.
So, I mean, so what are the other things you will be teaching? So, I mean, only the F5 or the firewall also and other things?
Yeah, see how this course goes on is it has 3 modules as I mentioned initially. So right now we are at F5. After this, we will do Palo Alto, then checkpoint, then again F5. So this keeps on going.
Okay, so you are the trainer for all three things,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Okay.
All right, so let me explain the topology a little. We have this client here, which is connected to big IP on the management port as well as on an outside port, right? So this is the traffic port, the Ethernet 1.1, and management is management. The same PC, this is going to act as the management PC, and from the same PC, we could also test our application, right? So this can be our client as well. Okay, and this is connected to internet just in case if you have to download something here. And the rest is normal. These are servers, not real servers, but these are Cisco routers. Why do we have them? It goes easy on the processor, right? Saves memory and saves your resources. And yet we can display a web page from the Cisco routers, right? We will set up the HTTP server on these, and we will be able to access those. So we will see that, not to worry. And this is our device, Big IP, which is in the process of putting up. Now it is all be ready. So this super secret password is test123. It will be same for all of you. But that doesn't mean this topology. See how this lab works. In the meantime, our devices are getting ready. I'll tell you a little bit about the lab. The physical topology here, I mean the diagram, this looks same for all of you, right? Whenever you will log in with your credentials, it will look exactly like this. If I create a new node here, right, this will be visible for all. Similarly, if I delete this, this will be gone for all. Okay, that is why students, you do not have access to create or edit these labs because you think that you are editing it for yourself, but it gets changed for everybody. Although what you can do, or for you, the real playground is the configuration. The configuration in these nodes can be whatever that you want. It will be private to you or local to you. Okay. So let's say you don't prefer giving 172 IP addresses while you are practicing, give 10.0 network. It won't harm anybody. It is just your configuration in under that credentials that you're using. Right. And since everybody will have their own credentials, so each one of you will have your own configuration, although the devices remain shared. Okay. So that is why you do not have access to create and delete labs. Okay, so this is ready. So by default, onto the big IP management interface, the default address out of the box is 192.168.1.245. Now, in some interviews, just for the fun's sake, they do ask why the default IP is 1.245, right? Why not 1.1 or 0.1 or any simple number? Why 245? Right? So the hex to decimal conversions, if you convert F5 to decimal, it comes out to be 245, right? That is why the IP is 245. I haven't tried this, but that's what the books say for F5.
Sorry, can you please come again? When we convert?
F5 being F5 as hex number, if you convert it to decimal, comes out to be 245. Okay. Let me change the resolution slightly. Okay, so I will change the IP addresses for this, which suits our topology. How do you identify your interfaces? Here you see local area connection, but here you will see Ethernet 0, 1, 2, and so on. So it starts with Ethernet 0. Read Ethernet as local area connection. So Ethernet 0 is local area connection. Ethernet 1 will be in the increasing order. If you go, it will be local area connection 4 and then 5. Okay, so right now we are going out on internet on local area connection 5, right? As you see, this connects to public network, and this is Ethernet 2, right? So yes, we will need this, no disabling. Ethernet 0 and 1, one of them, since we have this unmanaged switch here, so it doesn't really matter which one gets 10 network and which one gets 190 to 168. Okay. But we must have these IP addresses 190 to 168 1.10. I think the topology has it. Yeah. 1.10 and /16. I hope the text is not too small for you guys. Let me know if I have to make it bigger.
No, it's okay.
Right now we access HTTPS 192.168 1.245. Right now, the default is admin and admin, if I remember correctly. Yes. So the current password, admin, new password, whatever you think is safe enough, right? And now log in with the new password. The very first thing that you have to go through is the setup utility, which means you have to configure some mandatory settings for the device to start functioning. The very basic, no license exists at this moment, so we do require license. Now, to activate license, there are two ways. Okay. There are two ways to activate license. One is the automatic way, which will require your F5 to be connected with internet, or it should have the capability to go out on internet. Second is the manual licensing. In manual licensing, the internet connectivity should be there on the client, which will be accessing the F5, putting in the key, and then talking to f5.com, validating that key, and then giving it back to F5 load balancer, right? So the manual way of doing it. So we will look at the manual way, because as per our topology, this device does not have access to internet. So registration key. Now, will this work? And unfortunately, I cannot copy paste, or can I? No, I cannot. So let's type. Let me do this. Now, I doubt this key will work, but let's see. Right, and we want the automatic way to do it. Click on next. Right, so what happens when you click on next after giving it the key? It creates a dossier. Dossier means it creates a hash file with the combination of the key that you provided plus the system details. Right. So what we have to do is simply Control C, Control A and Control C, copy the entire thing and go to step 2, licensing the server. So to access this is why we require internet, right? So click on this and it should take us to the licensing portal. Now this website is always slow for some reason. It will open up. All broken, but it will. Right, so you enter your dossier here. Control C. Within the window, you can do copy paste, but not out of this window. Right, just a normal license agreement, terms and condition, do next. Right, so this is our license, right? It validated all our information that we provided it to it in the first step. So there are two ways. You could simply download the license, upload the text file, or you could simply copy the content, which I've done, and paste it here. Okay, once you're past that step, licensing, you're on to resource provisioning now. This is the default allocation, and I would recommend keep it that way. Or if you want to change, you can change it from here. You cannot define the values like 10% to management and 20 or remaining to DMOS, right? You could change from here, small, medium, or large. This is the size of or the amount of resources that will be assigned for management plane. And this will define the size of the LTM plane or the data plane. Right, and any blade that you want to activate, wherever it is licensed or limited, or no, it is in highlight, you could check that and enable that particular feature. Right, all of that will be available on the left, the options related to that feature. Okay, so for now we've just selected LTM. Move next. Now this talks about device certificate. Okay, not the application certificate, but the certificate or the identity of the device itself. So by default, it will be a self-signed certificate. Right? You may want to change that, but since it is going to be used for management only, right? You would not want to spend money on accessing management, right? Which is going to happen within the network, and only a limited number of people will have access to it. So mostly, even in productions, we don't really, keep the certificate as a well-known CA certificate. It is a self-signed certificate. So with whatever it is, we go next. And here you define the platform, right? Which means what do you want in terms of the management configuration? So the very first thing, IP addresses. Although it has 1.245 right now, but the default when you run the setup utility goes to DHCP. And if you go next with that setting, in the very next step, it will try in the very next, or when you end the setup utility, it will try to get the IP address from DHCP. So change that. Okay, since we do not have a DHCP in our lab, I will give the address manually, and I would want to keep it same. Right, just my personal preference. Right, you guys, if you want to change, you can change. Management route, if needed. Right, when will it be needed? If you have where is our topology? If you have yeah, give me a moment. Okay, guys, I'm back. So yes, when will you need a management route? Let's say if this PC here, the management PC and the management interface of big IP, if they're not in the same subnet, they would require a route, right? So that is for providing that route. Host name, it has to be an FQDN, so something dot something lab big IP. Root account, you could disable login to the default root account. The default is this I think we did not go through this. Yes. So there are two ways to log in, GUI or CLI, right? When you log in through, they call it configuration utility. Okay, it's a big fancy name. It just simply means the GUI. So when you're logging into configuration utility or the GUI, you simply type in admin. That's what we did, and then we reset the password, right? And if you try to log in through CLI for the first time, the defaults are root and default. If you want to change the management IP address via GUI, we are seeing at this moment how do we do it. If you want to do it through CLI, this is the command, right? Create/system management IP and then the IP address along with mask. Right, so I don't want to disable login because we will log into to the CLI. So let me just give the password, whatever it is right now, that is default. Right, and by default, it allows SSH access and from all IP addresses. Right, even if you change the IP address, it would try to redirect on that, and you might have to log in again. Right, next is the network configuration that we have to make. All of this I'll be skipping now, not because this is a demo class or something, right? These are all related to the high availability, and that comes at the very end of our course, right? So we won't touch these topics at this moment. We will revisit this section after the setup utility is done and towards the end when we will be learning high availability on F5. That's when we will come to these. For now, I will just do next. Okay, now there is a concept of self IP address, a fancy term, right? Two terms, in fact, self IP and floating IP. Again, the floating IP will be used in HA, and in netting, the use cases will follow. For now, just try to understand it as the primary and the secondary IP address. Okay, the self IP is the primary IP address on that interface, and the floating IP is kind of secondary. And every interface of F5, when given an IP address, right, it must be assigned to some VLAN. Right? It's a mandatory thing. And VLANs, you have tagged VLANs and untagged VLANs. Right? Do not get confused. Tagged VLANs means like a normal VLAN that we all know, like on switch, that is VLAN. Right? Untagged means that will be no VLAN tagging happening. no layer 2 changes, right? Just a normal IP packet. It's just that in the configuration, they want to call it untagged. Okay. So what are we configuring? We are configuring Ethernet 1.1, right? Ethernet 1.1. I want this to be untagged. The IP address, as we have planned, it is 10.10.1.31 with a /16. On the same floating IP, 10.10.1.33. Now you guys must be wondering, why am I going with these odd IP addresses? They get aligned with the lab manual that I'll be giving you later on, right? So it'll be easy for you to follow the guide. Anyway, after configuring this, simply click on add. So what we have configured now is an interface 1.1 with untagged VLAN. And I think I've made a mistake. This is this is internal VLAN. We should have configured internal as 1.2, right? And what I've configured is 1.1. Not a problem. We will go back. It will be named internal, and the internal addresses are like this: 170.16.1.31. And it is on 1.2. I will remove 1.1. So this is what our internal VLAN looks like now. Let's go next. And now we can configure the external VLAN settings, which is this. High availability again. You have them as part of setup utility, because if you already have an F5, during the setup utility itself, you could configure HA and make them a pair. For now, it's just that we are starting. I will be choosing the bare minimum things, and we will come back again. NTP, we don't have this in our lab, but of course, in the production network, you will have to define the network time protocol, whatever NTP server is being used in the network, that will be given here as an address, and you simply click on add. Same goes for DNS, whatever DNS server your network is forwarding to, those configuration will be here. Config sync, again, an HA configuration here. Failover, all these are all HA related topics, guys. Mirroring. And for now, you can again go to the HA configuration further, and you can select the active and standby pair and so on. But here I would choose finished. Right, and you will notice after finishing setup utility, all the options are now available to us. So this device is ready to be configured as a local traffic manager. right? And we have done the initial setup. All right, that brings us to our very first lab, right? We did provisioning. So starting, we went through the initial setup, right? We accessed the device through the GUI, licensed it, then we provisioned the devices. Then we imported, not really imported, but we did see how a device certificate would look like. You may import the certificates from the CAs, but again, not even in production, you would have that for management, right? One is, okay, this thing remains archiving the big IP system configuration. Now, it is similar to creating image file of your computer, right? So that if tomorrow anything goes wrong, you can come back to that image file and come back to those settings that you created, right? So it's like coming back and restoring your system from a backup. You might not have everything up to date, but you don't have to start from scratch either, right? So that is a UCS file stored on this location. It will have all of this configuration file, product license, user accounts, SSL certificates, and keys. How do we do that? You go under system, and I think under configuration. Over here, archives. So click on archive, and you could simply say create one. So just to give a milestone name, right? So that if you look at this name tomorrow, and you will know what all configuration it is expected to have. So try and always give a meaningful name. Mostly what you will do is in production, it will be with the latest date and time. So what it says the backup is being stored with this name license.ucs and under this path. You could simply click on this and upload this. I believe, yes. Sorry. You could click on this and restore this, not upload. Restoring means whatever you have in this file will be active into the configuration, right? Okay. Okay, after this, there are certain tools I haven't talked about yet. Ask F5, Dev Central, and Big IP iHealth. We will talk about these as the course progresses. These are nothing but the public tools available for the users from F5. Ask F5 is more like a support forum, right? From like you have Cisco support forum, similar to that you have Ask F5. Dev Central is again more like a blogging. It's like it's a Quora website from F5 for F5, right? Just all F5 related queries, they are answered here on Dev Central. Big IP iHealth is again a portal from F5 to analyze the health of your device. What you could do is take a backup of the device and upload to this portal, and this portal will analyze your system settings, right? Like the versions, subversions of the software blades that we are running, any vulnerable setting that you have, right? Any hot fixes required for this particular device, all of that will be displayed on the IP iHealth. Okay. Right. That brings us to the end of our lab one. Right. We have done the initial setup, going forward in the course, we will learn how this device would function. We will run a setup of a test application. We'll try to access it. We'll try to see what load balancing algorithm is used, how the connections are being handled on the client side, server side, a lot more coming up. Yeah. So see you all tomorrow. Same time, same link mostly, right? And with the same trainer. Let me know if you guys have any questions for now. Technically, that's it from my side. If you have, you must have questions related to the course. Feel free to ask.
So, Sukesh, my
Yep.
query is normally what we do when we start a course, we go through the path first, that how we are going to proceed. Because right now, what you are doing is you are going through the lab, which I don't understand because I'm not aware about that. So it's a very new thing for me. I'm not sure about the other guys, but
Yeah, even me too. So, are you
Hmm.
going to start from theoretical part? Are you going to start from
at least bring
Yeah.
us some base. So
Yeah,
on that we
basic
can
base.
at least start.
I understand your point. See, let's say that we all decide to play cricket, right? So first is we have to figure out where. If we have a ground, we can look for the team and we can look for bowlers, batsmen, and all rounders that we need in our team. First is we need the playground, right? So what we have set up right now in today's lab is the playground. We haven't done a lot of concepts or any super technical topic that I've done. What we have just done is licensed a device. How do we configure it? What all parameters are needed? How do you configure virtual server? How will it work? That is what is coming up next, right? It won't be just you do this on this and I won't be doing theory. No, all the labs will have theory plus the practical. This is how I deliver. I
No, my
always
point is if okay, then we have to manage ourselves like that. But the thing is, if they can upload the video on time by tomorrow, then at least we must get some time to practice it first, and then only we can available in front of you for the next class. So please
this
help us with that. That
right.
they will
This
must
particular
yeah.
video, yes, this
Hmm.
particular video I think is being streamed live. As I see this live on the application here. So you should see it on the networking channel already.
I'm not sure because I have my portal. So do I have to log in it to some other thing? Because I have my student portal with me.
I understand, but not everybody is registered for that portal right now. So that is why the initial 1 or 2 videos they go to YouTube so that everybody
Okay,
can
I need to
have
see it on
access.
YouTube for this.
Yes,
Okay, got it.
right. So we'll go to the NW Kings channel and you will see the live video there. Right. I mean, even after the live, it will stay there.
Okay.
So Sukesh, in the course, like we'll be covering the WAF part also.
No, we will just be covering the LTM part. But trust me, the WAF, it is not too many things that you need to know. I can tell you how a WAF works. And we can discuss it when the time is right, right? When you're doing that particular feature, I will, or you can remind me that we have to do it with WAF.
Okay. Okay.
I will show you how it comes into picture and what all it checks for. WAF is all HTTP traffic, basically.
Okay.
Sukesh, like, are we planning for demo session for CP checkpoint?
Not right now, I believe, because we are starting with F5 So we just finished a checkpoint some time back. So it's F5 turn. After F5, we go to Palo Alto and then checkpoint. So we're going in a circle.
Okay.
But I'm sure there will be previous videos available for checkpoint. You can have a look at them. They will be available on the same channel on YouTube.
Okay, same link tomorrow also you can join. No?
Yes, I think it should be same, should not change. And if there is any change, you will be notified on your emails. So check your emails if there is any new information.
Okay.
Most likely it will be same, just in case,
Okay. Can you please explain about what is the certifications, like what is the use?
The certifications that we cover, not all certification related things that we would cover, but let me just tell you. Okay, you see here, you have, this is where the certification starts. Big IP 101. Okay, 101, 201, all the technical certifications I'm telling you. 202 is not for us, right? So 101, 201, and then 301 A and B. There are two parts to it. So our course revolves around these three, right? I don't say that I will be covering all the topics given in these syllabus for these certifications, but let's say if I talk about 101, it is nothing but the networking concepts that you learn in CCNA, right? So you're not here to learn CCNA with me. You're here to learn big IP, right? So the initial part of 201 and 301 A and B, it is full of big IP, LTM configuration and administering it, right? So that is what we will be covering up. And it is more aligned towards what you need on daily basis versus for certification, right? What is the motive? To understand F5, get a job, and to be able to work on F5, right? Or if you have to, if let's say you've got 3 years of experience only on routing switching, right? So you want to add more things to your profile. So after this course, you'll be able to say that yes, you have worked on F5 for 2 to 3 years in a production environment, right? That is my motive to that level. I should prepare you all, right?
So-
And that we do.
Sir, this course is related to basic level of load balancer, or it is CCNP level?
I would say it is more than basics, right? We do pretty much from basic to expert level. We start with very basics, and then I also tell you wherever the topic is right, like these are the troubleshooting scenarios that you would get. These are the questions that you might get on interviews, right? So I keep telling you these things throughout the course. See, again,
Okay.
I would stress on this thing again. I am not going topic by topic for this certification, but if you look at the past record and all, this course has always helped people get a job, right? And they can easily claim they have worked on F5 devices for 2 to 3 years.
And sir, apart from load balancer, I have one more query. Is networking doing a certification for CCI data center?
For CCI data center, I am not too sure, friend.
Okay.
I don't I don't really recommend people doing CCIs nowadays. So I don't really keep a track of it. I am a CCI by myself. I'm CCI into security, but today's market is not for CCIs. It is not for one particular vendor. you should be skilled decently enough in multiple vendors rather than being an expert of one vendor.
That's correct. That's correct. Like Nokia is also playing in the market. So Nokia,
Right.
Juniper. So
Yeah, there are a lot of devices, a lot of vendors in every category, be it routers, switches, load balancers, storage switches, right? Firewalls, servers. The
so in you, sir,
diversification is
currently,
there.
so Fortinet and load balancer F5 is in the booming right now in UK right now. In UK network.
It is everywhere, I would say. F5 is heavily in demand. And there are a lot of F5 trainings happening around the world. So yes, they also have tie-up with all the leading cloud vendors if you need F5 in there.
So yes, sir. So like I have a little bit knowledge on this Citrix level. So we'll
Mhm.
be having the similar concepts like the GSLB, content switching, all those things also in our FI2.
I don't thoroughly remember GSLB and content switching, but I think that relates to the service provider domains, right?
So the GSLB is like when we access from the geography base, the traffic goes to the nearby
Oh,
data.
that's the GTM feature.
Okay, so we'll be covering those stuffs in our course also, right?
I will tell you theoretically, but GTM mostly it is just DNS,
Okay.
right? I mean, you create a zone, you create the records, that's it. GTM is over. I mean, you don't really have anything much there. Yes, you can. A GTM would further forward it to LTM, so you can run the health checks, different type of health checks. That's all.
Okay.
I will tell you the concept. Don't worry. I mean, this is one of the course that has helped me when I was studying, right? And it has helped n number of students after I started training.
Okay. Fine.
So have faith. Don't go after certifications. Certification, doing certification and learning a course are two different things. Trust me.
Indeed, sir. Yeah, indeed.
All right. And if you see after 301 A and B, you don't really have any LTM certification. So we are going kind of from basic to the expert level of LTM knowledge. All right. So if no more questions, I'll see you all tomorrow, same time. Yeah.
Take care, sir. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a lovely weekend. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you.